Keep it going, same batch. Marillion Fugazi, this is their second album, Fish-led album. I can't pronounce his real name, Fish, but anyway, this is a good one. I want to do a best of album, or not a best of, but like a ranking the albums type deal. When it comes to Marillion, I want to do that for especially Genesis, Pink Floyd, Rush, the things that are easiest to me. I like Marillion a lot, kind of a new incarnation of Genesis. Genesis would not sound like this, but at the same time I can kind of see where it gets a Genesis vibe to it. They kind of sound like a bunch of B-side Genesis songs tacked onto an album. Especially their first 4 or 5 albums, the Fish stuff, Clutching at Straws, Script for a Jester's Cheer, Misplaced Childhood, all that really has a Genesis vibe to it, but it's more of a Genesis B-side vibe. Now, Genesis can make some incredible B-sides, Oswald Windows, and just some great stuff. This is a great album cover. The concept was made by Fish. It's on the Capitol label. I bought it for $5 and then they give me 20% off. This was years ago though. This is worth a lot more now. And that's fine by me. No headset fault up. AC/DC. This is the last album with Bon Scott. I like the Bon Scott stuff a lot. I watched a documentary yesterday about the new wave of British heavy metal and how they don't want to lump AC/DC in there with that genre because they were long way before the new wave of British heavy metal. Plus they're Australian. But they definitely, especially the stuff that came out around 1978 and came out around this time. What year is this? Especially the stuff that came out around this time were just the total vibe of them was new wave of British heavy metal with a little bluesy feel to it, but that's definitely what it sounded like. Night Prowler's my favorite song on here. I get sick of the hits, Highway to Hell, Girls Got a Rhythm, and those songs just really wear on me. That's probably why Powerage is probably my favorite album by them. But, you know, the hits just grind because you heard them so many times over the radio. Let's go to CDs. Let's start off with Charlie Christian. He's kind of a cross between gypsy jazz and bop. Just really old stuff. Doesn't really play a whole lot of things that turned into standards or anything like that. Just like I say, just really old jazz guitar music. Pretty good. I'm not the biggest jazz guitar aficionado. This is Different Directions by Orchestra Flamboyant, which is basically Frankie Dante's group. You can see Frankie Dante's name right there. And that's a picture of Frankie Dante right there. This one, you know, I have an iPod of like my favorite 1200 salsa songs, and there should be a few more on there. But I have the 3 and 4 on here, La Negra Caridad and Paz. I have both those songs on there because I love this album and I love those 2 songs. And this is a really good one. I'm glad they reissued this one. Really political type music. They do a version of Blackbird on here. And if I was to sing a song at the end of any video or at the beginning or whatever, I would sing Blackbird. I don't know who does that song. I don't know who originated it, but it kind of feels like the times that we're in now. And, you know, with the racism and all that stuff that we're going through. And I feel like that's a very appropriate song to sing at the end of videos, especially if you're doing political type stuff. And they did that here, and they do a really good job. Frankie Dante has a distinctive voice, and he played with everybody. Larry Harlow, Mark Diamond, Joe Cuba. Everybody wanted him to sing for them on an album because of how distinct and how rich, muddy his voice was. Just a little throaty, but throaty in a medium to high pitch type way. Just an incredible singer, incredible group. And those 2 songs are just absolutely incredible. Is this Cubanismo? Man, maybe this is a compilation of Cubanismo type music. This is mostly Cuban stuff. Haven't listened to this in ages and ages. I'm looking on here. It's got Jimmy Bosch, which I saw him in concert. It's got a couple of him, Otra Oportunidad, which is a good song. That's probably his best song off of that particular album that came off of. Boston, Third Stage. I remember picking this up for $1 or 50 cents when I finally got my car when I was 16 years old, and I played this over and over again. I always thought it was pretty good. They never, they never reached their potential. Boston didn't. And of course, Boston was famous for their first album, and then they kind of tailed off a little bit, made an album a couple years later, and then in the mid 80s they made this. But it's very AOR sounding, but I actually really like it, but probably just mostly for the nostalgia purposes. Mando was the hit on here, and it's a really lot less of a hard rock album than their first album was, with More Than a Feeling on it and those type songs, and We're Just Another Band Out of Boston, those type songs. But this is still a pretty decent album. It's not hard rock though, it's more AOR. It's got like a mid-80s Styx feel to it. Pete, can't pronounce his name, Ottoman, New York. Can't remember what this sounds like. I should take another listen to it, but I'm noticing right now that the songs are not the length that I like. They're a little bit shorter, 5 to 6 minute range. Rather listen to jazz. I'd rather the songs be a little bit longer. What is this right here? Ron Woods. I gotta be honest with you, I'm not real sure what this is. Ronnie Woods. I need to re-listen to this. It may be a gem, who knows. But don't remember this album. And then Brittany Fox. Brittany Fox was a hair metal band, and they're okay. They have another album that's really good, and I can only remember the cover. Rather listen to Spanish music than rap. That's a really good song, Senora Pancina. But it's an AOR glam metal type feel band. I don't remember exactly what this album sounds like. The famous one with the girl, not the girl on front, a guy that looks like a girl on front with blonde hair standing like this, was probably my favorite one, but not really my cup of tea. Pink Floyd. Picked up a whole batch of somebody's Pink Floyd collection at Savers here, and no, it doesn't have the poster, but oh well, it's probably still worth about 40 bucks at this point in time. I paid less than $1 for it. But I picked up a batch of somebody's Pink Floyd records right before that place closed. This one is not my favorite Pink Floyd album by any stretch of anybody's imagination. It's somewhere probably in the middle, but it's darn good. It's just something that you heard a million times. My favorite songs are probably Any Color You Like, Us and Them, the one that the female sings that had to take them to court to finally get some kind of rights to whatever that song was, because she did create that music and they wanted to credit it to the band and not to her. And it's one of those, people talk about that as being a seminal album in progressive rock. Yes, I can definitely see that. Yes, I definitely understand that. There's better stuff out there. There's better progressive rock. But when this came out, it was just so heavily inspired. The guitar solos supposedly didn't take any time to make. They were so inspired, they just did them on the spot. But when you hear the songs Time and Money, and when you hear them over and over again, it just gets... It really does get kind of old. Now, it's great that they did get famous off of this, because they do have some really good music. And I should rank their albums. I really want to rank their albums. This would be somewhere in the middle. All right. Thanks, guys.